Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of AndrewsFootball.com. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button right down there in the corner. It will make all your wildest dreams come true. And now I'm going to talk about what I think is the ninth best football team of all time. Now, this team was just determined from the start of the season to the end of the season. See, the previous year they won the Super Bowl, and this year they were better. If you had power rankings back then, they would have been number one at the beginning of the year. They would have been number one in the middle of the year. They would have been number one at the end of the year. Now, on offense, this team led the league in scoring. They averaged 27.6 points a game. And on defense, they were third in the league, giving up an average of 15.8 points a game. The quarterback won NFL MVP, and people really, as a general rule of thumb, remember this team for the great offense, but they are led by a really great defensive mastermind, and they had a really, really good defense. But the biggest reason that this team is on the list was not what they did in the regular season, which they dominated, by the way. It was their immense domination in the playoffs. In the three playoff games, they averaged 42 points a game on offense, but on defense, they averaged 8.667. So 8 and 2/3. So I mean, you're winning your games by what is that? Over 33 points on average. It's ridiculous. So you have to understand the two playoff games that this team played in and the Super Bowls is 0% chance that this team was going to lose. And of course, this team is the 1989 San Francisco 49ers. Now I'm gonna backtrack a little bit and talk about their playoff games here. First, they played the Minnesota Vikings, and they win this game 41-13. But if you remember your history here, in '87, which possibly could have been the best Niners team of all time, they lose the wild card game to this same Vikings team. For those of you, probably most of you that are watching this don't even remember who Anthony Carter is. Go back and watch some Anthony Carter highlights. In this playoff game, he has like 10 catches, 220 some yards. Both are playoff records. I mean, I don't even know how to compare him to a player nowadays, maybe Deshaun Jackson, except slightly bigger. It was just really unique talent, and that game was just ridiculous. But they played the NFC Championship game against the Rams. They win 30-3, but you knew they were going to win because about a month ago on Monday Night Football, the Rams are playing the Niners at with the Coliseum. I think that's what they called it back then. I know they're back in LA now, but they were up 27-10 in the fourth quarter. Niners come back and won. So I remember watching this game. I mean, you just knew the Rams had zero chance. You could just tell by their body language that they were already defeated because they played the best possible game they could play against them at home a month ago. They're up by 17 in the fourth quarter and they lose. So there's a 0% chance the Vikings or the Rams are going to beat this team. And then they get in the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos team, which just wasn't that good. Now, keep in mind, they're good enough to get to the Super Bowl, but when you talk about good Super Bowl teams, this might have been the worst Super Bowl team of all time, this Denver Broncos team, and give them a ton of credit for getting there. They had to go to Buffalo, beat Buffalo. Of course, Buffalo, as you know, goes to the next four Super Bowls, but the Denver Broncos were just destroyed. San Francisco 49ers scored the most points in Super Bowl history at 55, won by the largest margin of all time with 45. Of course, that could change with this new Super Bowl coming up, but both these are still records. The thing is about this team is that the more and more I look at this team, the more and more I think that this team should be ranked higher. You know, on defense, you had longtime defensive coordinator George Seifert. He takes over as head coach, and you have to understand there's a lot of bitterness about Bill Walsh leaving. He didn't tell anybody. This team was really, I'm not going to say mad, but they were really bitter. They really, really wanted to prove how much they could win without Bill Walsh. And that's something you really can't put into a formula. You can't put into statistics, was how bitter this really talented team was. Now, like I said, you usually think of offense, but this defense was really good. They gave up less than 86.5 yards a game rushing. They had two pass rushers that had over 10 sacks each. One of them's Hall of Famer Charles Haley. So you can't really overstate that. You had two good pass rushers, plus a team that was really dominant against the run. Lott ends up moving to free safety. He's a first-team All-Pro. He moved before that season, but I'm pointing that out because in '84 he was a corner and he was a Pro Bowler and an excellent player. I think he was a better free safety where he was first-team All-Pro. So that's something I'm pointing out between the two teams. Because here's the thing, when you think about the Niners, there's some really good defensive pieces in play, but when you think of them, what do you think about? You think of Montana to Rice. And you also had John Taylor. Both of them were 1,000-yard receivers. John Taylor also went to the Pro Bowl as a punt returner that year. The thing is, though, if you cover both of those guys, you had Tom Rathman. He had 73 catches. Roger Craig, an excellent wide receiver, or running back who was a good receiver. That's what I was trying to say. Just took me a minute. He had 49 receptions that year. Plus, he had 1,000 yards rushing. So why do I have this team better than the '84 49ers? The '84 49ers had more Pro Bowlers. They had more wins. Bill Walsh is a better head coach than George Seifert. Nothing against George Seifert, but he is a better head coach. The '84 49ers did have a better defense. But I got four big reasons why, if these two teams played each other, why the '89 Niners would win. Number one reason is better special teams play. Mike Kofer is a first-team All-Pro kicker. John Taylor went to the Pro Bowl as a punt returner. But if you played these two teams against each other in Madden, both these teams would be ranked 99 overall. So you're really kind of splitting hairs when you're trying to figure out which team's better than the other. Well, special teams is something I think that most people really don't look at. But you have first-team All-Pro kicker, Pro Bowl punt returner, two things that the '84 Niners didn't have. So special teams was something that you would give to the '89 Niners. The second reason I got, and I'm just going two here, I'm counting them out with you here, is more Hall of Fame talent. And Montana and Lott played on both teams. But the '89 team, you have Jerry Rice, you have Charles Haley, you have Steve Young. And then you could easily say, hey, wait a minute, Dan, Steve Young doesn't help out the '89 Niners. He did have 1,000 yards passing. Maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't, maybe he helps, maybe he doesn't, but he absolutely doesn't hurt you. So even though he's a backup, perfect situation, he doesn't play at all, he doesn't hurt you at all. Plus, in the off chance that these two teams play and both quarterbacks get hurt, or one quarterback gets hurt, well, one has a Hall of Fame backup, the other one doesn't. Number three, you have the advantage at the wide receiver position. Jerry Rice and John Taylor, both of them went to the Pro Bowl. The one thing you can say without any debate is that Jerry Rice and John Taylor are better than Dwight Clark and Freddie Solomon. Now, keep in mind, Dwight Clark and Freddie Solomon, they're actually pretty good players. Freddie Solomon actually had 10 receiving touchdowns in '84, but nobody's going to tell you that those two guys are better than Jerry Rice and John Taylor. Both those guys went to the Pro Bowl. Jerry Rice, first-team All-Pro. Universally saying, every football expert is going to tell you Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver of all time, maybe the greatest player of all time. The NFL Network had top 100 players of all time. Jerry Rice, number one. And my last reason why the '89 Niners would beat the '84 Niners was that 1989 Joe Montana won MVP. He won here, He has two MVP seasons in '89 and '90. The '90 team, of course, didn't win a Super Bowl. The '89 team does. Both teams have Joe Montana, and don't get me wrong, he's great in '84, but I think in '89 you get peak Joe Montana. So that is my last reason why I think that the '89 Niners would beat the '84 49ers. Trust me, after looking at both the '84 and '89 teams, I really think that I can make a strong argument for both these guys being much higher on my list, but I got them at 10 and 9 respectively. If you disagree with me, please let me know. Go ahead and leave a comment in there. Let me know if the '84 team is better than the '89 team. I got 8 more to go, so we got plenty of room for debate. So By the way, if you haven't already, there's a little button down there. It says subscribe. Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. And until next time.